Okay, we're going to go over the first setup of fried liver attack. It usually goes, give me 1 second here, goes e4, e5, bishop c4, knight c6, knight f3, knight f6, knight g5. That signals the fried liver attack. Okay, most people may try to stop it by going d5, but there are a lot other better options. So usually you just take pawn and then you try to stop it by knight taking. You gotta understand, this knight is always going to sack itself on knight or on f7. So takes, of course queen and rook are forked, so king has to take. Queen checks. Notice how this knight is pinned to the king, so it can't do anything right here. But one of the worst moves that the king can do is go to g8, because then it's automatic checkmate. So it's like queen checks, queen takes, bishop checks, bishop blocks, and checkmate. So that is the first setup for the fried liver attack. Okay, now let's go over the next step for fried liver attack. Okay, so e4, let's get the first few moves going here. So okay, here's the fried liver attack. They try to block with a pawn, pawn takes, knight takes, of course the normal knight sacks pawn, king takes, and check. We already know that g8 is the worst move, but another move that's not really that good is back to e8. The reason is because, well, we already sacked knight for a pawn, so technically we're down a little bit, but we can get that knight back right here. So bishop takes. Now not only do we have a lot better attack going on, but now we've equalized, but now we're already up a pawn also. So that's the second setup. Take in mind that I can make some mistakes. For example, the bishop and queen is eyeing down here on a checkmate. So if black decides to go e8, you can go up more material. Okay, all you have to do is you take the knight to check the king, pawn takes, queen takes, and now you fork the king and rook. And the rest of the game, you have the advantage. So you just keep playing. Okay, so now let's go over the third setup for the fried liver attack. Okay, so let's get the first few moves going. Okay, now you also could go to e7, which isn't really good either, because now you can get that knight back, and not only is the king can't castle and is in the middle of the board, but you're up a pawn and you're one step away from castling. So in this situation, black is looking pretty good. Of course, you've got to be a little wary of this little fork here, but that shouldn't be much of an issue. So okay, we're going to go over the next step for a fried liver attack. Usually, let's get the first few moves out here. Okay, then of course, obvious pawn to block, pawn takes, knight takes f7, king takes, and queen checks. Now the best move for the king is to go to e6. That way it's also another protector on this knight, but since the king's out in the open and can't castle, it gives us the advantage. So what we want to do is build up the pressure on this knight. So we bring knight up here. We're just going to go over the main moves in this video, so I won't go over every little thing, but let's say the knight goes here. I'm going to provoke this knight to take on c2, which is okay because this rook doesn't get any action into the fried liver attack, and we're going to trap the knight. So it's almost like we're exchanging a knight for a rook sort of thing. But we got such a strong attack that's okay. So what we're going to do is push that pawn to attack the knight. Once the knight takes the pawn, we move the king over. Okay, so it takes. So now we got that knight out of the way. Now we can do something like bring the rook over, put more pressure on that pawn. Let's say just do a random move just to show you what we can do. Push pawn d5. Now this bishop, we have this diagonal that can come here and put more pressure on this king. So it's like throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the king till you get a checkmate. Okay, now since we go over all the main lines for Fried Liver Tack, we'll go over a few of the little nuances that you might want to look out for or avoid. So that they tried to stop the Fried Liver Tack. So let's say pawn d5, and pawn takes. Now this knight does not have to take that pawn. So sometimes it might try something like, say, knight a5. Okay, so they're attacking the bishop. So then you can just bring the bishop here, checking the king. Of course, if the bishop comes here, if you want, you can just exchange because you already got decent game going on. Or sometimes what they might do is might push the pawn. So you just take, pawn takes. Now usually when in this situation, just bring the bishop back. Because kind of saying, well, what's the purpose? Well, for one, you need to protect this pawn because this is a little trap. Because with the bishop here, let's go back. Okay, let's say bishop here. This queen come down and fork the bishop and g2 pawn down here. So that's why instead of depending on what we want to do, it's just sometimes better just bring the bishop back. So you gotta be careful of that. Okay, another one you want to be careful of is let's get this going here. Okay, knight g5. Okay, another thing you want to be careful of is if the pawn comes here attacking the bishop. You don't want to take that pawn, because if you take the pawn, this queen's going to come down, like I said, showed you in the previous little setup, that comes here, forks the bishop, and this pawn down here. So in this situation, you got the pawn, you got a pretty good attack. Best thing you do is you want to bring the bishop back down. So because of that, so you usually want to take this bishop right back down to f1. So here's this another setup that you might want to avoid. I'm not going to really get into it, but I'll show you the main setup. It's called the Traxler attack. So usually get here. Okay, when you go g5, attack this f7 square. Instead of trying to block or attack the bishop, let's bring the other bishop out. In this case, I wouldn't go for a Fried Liver Tack, because if they've done their homework and research, take that with the knight, you'd be in trouble, because what they'll do is they'll do similar thing, but they'll sack with the bishop here on f2. If king takes and knight comes down, checks, and the queen come down here, possibly check or comes over. So it's gonna be a mess, but we can get into a Traxler attack at another time. But in this situation, I wouldn't continue with the Fried Liver Tack. Maybe you could always try to support the pawn and protect the knight at the same time. If the knight tries coming down, just go ahead and castle, because technically a bishop and knight is equal to a rook and pawn. Give or take, might be a little bit of advantage for one versus the other, but at least you're getting somewhat equalized exchange if they try to do something like that. So, but that's in my video, so see you in my next one. Thanks. Bye.